Good evening, everyone. I will call the regular Board of Selectmen meeting January 16th, 2025 to order at 7 p.m. If we could have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If first we can have a moment of silence for Arthur and Judith von Holtz. Art was a member of the Volunteer Fire Department Association for 50-plus years. He served as Southbury's resident state trooper and also a member of the Road Study Committee. They made their home here in Southbury as long as I can remember. Judy spent many years as a member of the Southbury Volunteer Firemen's Ladies Auxiliary. Among various other accomplishments, she was an employee of the Southbury Public Library for 25 years. If we can have a moment of silence for these two individuals. Thank you. Again, really a couple that was very much involved in Southbury and volunteering and serving our community. Public comment? Any other public comment? Any public comment? Hearing none, we'll suspend with that. Announcements and correspondence is in your packet. You have your reports. Next up is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve? Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none.
No, Jeff, I would like to make a motion to add a discussion for the rewording of the STS senior housing.
I'm sorry, say it again?
I'd like to make a motion to add to unfinished business a discussion of the rewording of the STS, Southbury Training School, senior housing.
Just a point of order, Mr. First Selectman. We're in the middle of another motion, so I don't think it's the appropriate time to drop a motion into a different motion.
Correct. So first I have the consent agenda. Any questions on the consent agenda?
Did we vote on the ARPA thing last week?
No.
I think last time,
Okay. So we had the consent agenda. We had a motion to approve.
Yes.
We had a second. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor of the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It carries unanimously. Selectman O'Neill, would you like to make a motion?
I would. I'd like to make a motion to add to unfinished business a discussion on the rewording of the Southbury Training School senior housing to housing.
Is there a second?
I'll always talk about affordable housing, I'll second that.
Are we talking about the motion was to discuss the rewording, is that correct?
Just to add to the discussion from the approval of last week, the last meeting's approval
All
to
right.
make it senior housing to make it to housing.
So I'll ask you to read what your motion is.
My motion is to add to unfinished business rewording, a discussion of rewording for the Southbury Training School senior housing to housing.
Okay. Do I have a second on that? Made and seconded. The motion is to add it to the agenda under new business. I guess we could do new business, right? You want to do new business? Unfinished? Okay, that's fine. Wherever it goes. I will, any discussion on that motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Yeah, aye. Is everybody an aye? Okay. Everybody's an aye. Okay. Minutes of January 2nd, 2025 regular meeting. Can I have a motion to approve? The second, please.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? And it carries. Next up is unfinished business that was added to the agenda for the rewording of the affordable housing, or the Pierce Hollow statute, is what I understand. So go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, no, I just, I wanted to express my disappointment with the way the board addressed the current state of affordable housing in our town. As you know, there's a nationwide housing crisis with limited availability and skyrocketing rents for the most vulnerable residents. Southbury currently has a 6-year wait for senior housing, and our affordable units are currently well below the recommended.
Point of order, we have a discussion about the rewording of the affordable housing legislation. Is that what we're discussing?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so let's discuss the rewording of the affordable housing.
We are.
So
Southbury
what's-
currently has a 6-year wait for senior housing, and affordable units are currently well below the recommended state statute of 10% of affordable units in town. Last week, unbeknownst to myself and one of my colleagues, this administration added to the agenda the rewording of the STS Pierce Hollow Village and Personnel Village. The board voted to approve a draft of the SDS senior housing to housing drawn up by Selectman Van Stone. Nothing in the rewording addressed the issue of affordable housing, and I can't express the frustration I have the way this was brought before this board. For months, I have been emailing our esteemed first selectman, as Jason refers to our first selectman, to get this on the agenda and discuss next steps. I was continually delayed with having this brought before this board. I emailed Jeff 3 times regarding the topic the week of our last meeting, and not once did I receive a response. The agenda for the January 2nd meeting was available on the town website on Monday, December 30th, and the rewording was not included on that agenda. A subsequent email was received Tuesday with additions to the agenda, adding the senior newsletter and refunds, and nothing regarding rewording of the Southbury Training School property was on that. I received an email regarding the addition of the rewording. I'm sorry, I never received an email regarding the addition of the rewording. Was it even noticed to the public properly? Doesn't the public have a right to know in advance what is on the agenda? Is this
I'll call
really,
this out of order.
is
We're
this
here to
really how our town
Mr. O'Neill, I'm
administration?
going to call you out of order.
I-
We're here to discuss the rewording, that was the motion that's sitting on the table, to discuss the rewording of the statute. Would you like to discuss the rewording, or are you here to chastise me?
Yes, I would like to discuss the rewording. I'm getting to
So
that.
let's discuss the rewording.
I'm
How would
getting
you
to
like to
that.
have it reworded, Mr. O'Neill? How
Well,
would
I
you
will
like-
get to that.
No,
So,
I will call you out of order. This is not the motion that's on the table. We're here to discuss the rewording of that statute.
exactly.
That was the
and I-
motion
and
you
I'm getting-
made.
And I'm getting to that. I think the
You're-
public has
no,
a
what you're
right to
doing is You're
know.
sitting here chastising the first
I think the
selectman
public has a right to know that we
You
weren't
can write anything
notified
up. Sir,
properly.
you are out of order. Okay, I will keep order here. You have made a motion.
Yep.
It's sitting before us. I will turn to Justin Betty. Justin, would you like to discuss the rewording of this statute, which is that's what's on,
I'm not,
added to the
I'm not
agenda.
finished.
could you turn your mic on, please, Mr. Betty?
I'm happy to discuss it. I'm curious, the point that Tim's trying to make, I think you should get.
So
Well, the
currently,
point, you should get to the point instead of chastising the first selectman. If you want to discuss what you think that legislation should look like, let's discuss it.
currently, the rewording does nothing to address the current housing shortage in Southbury. And I believe it was done intentionally to delay properly addressing this matter. There have been multiple times the public, our cost-burdened citizens, have expressed to this board their concerns about inadequate, unaffordable housing. Nothing has been accomplished on that. This board in my opinion, has a social responsibility to every citizen to be open and transparent, and we are currently failing with that task. Our agenda needs to be posted timely so the public and all board members can properly be informed. Not doing so is not in the best interest of Southbury and will have an adverse effect on the important issues facing our town. Additionally, the administration doesn't listen to the recommendations of our boards and
Again,
commissions.
sir, you're out of order. You're making a statement. You are not.
Then if you're
Address-
not going to
sir,
allow me
you are
to
out of
continue,
order. I said,
I will post
as the
this
chair
in the
of-
paper.
and who is running this meeting, this is nothing, what you're discussing here has nothing to do.
It certainly
You are
is if you
making a
give me the
sta-
opportunity
the
to
motion
continue.
on the floor. The
So-
motion on the floor
So
is
I-
to discuss the legislation of the, on that affordable housing, on that act.
On March
And you
1st
are not
of
sticking with what was
2024,
on it. So
our planning commission
I'm-
memo stated,
calling
that they
you out of
received-
order, Mr. O'Neill, please. Please act like a selectman.
how can I have an opportunity to discuss the affordable
What
housing
do
if
you
you
want to
don't
see
give
in
me that
that?
opportunity?
What do you want, because so far you have
Well,
not
I
discussed
would,
one
I
thing
would
that's
like
in
to
there.
see this board
What would you
consider
like in the legislation?
what, I would like this board to consider what our boards and commissions have asked us to consider. And the planning commission, of which Mr. Van Stone was a part of, had a memo on March 1st that stated they received a report from the Affordable Housing Subcommittee requesting that the language within Special Act Number 13-23 be amended. They stated, referring to the Southbury Training School property, it's the opinion of the Planning Commission, based on the current needs of affordable and senior housing throughout Southbury, that a property and development of this size would allow the town to make significant strides.
What would you like
At
to do with the
correcting-
legislation? That's the motion before us. You are not addressing the motion that's on the floor. The motion on the floor that you made, and it was seconded by Selectman Betty and approved by the entire board to discuss that statute and language that would be in there.
I'm getting-
What would you
I'm-
like?
I'm
in the-
getting to that.
I'm waiting, and
I'm
that's
get-
what you're doing is discussing things that have nothing to do with that statute. If there's a different motion you'd like to make,
It certainly does have everything to do with that
what do you
statute.
want to see in the statute? I have not heard anything yet that you are
If you
wanting in
give
the
me
statute.
If you give me an opportunity,
The
you'll
opportunity
hear
is
what-
right now, what would you like to see in the statute?
So based on what the planning commission, the current needs and affordable of senior housing throughout Southbury, that property and the development of that size would allow the town to make significant strides at correcting the current housing inequities and increases the affordable housing stock.
So what are you suggesting would be in that statute? Because if there's something in the statute
So-
you'd like to see, we can forward that Mr. O'Neill would like to see this in the state statute.
Yep,
Mr. Betty can send an email to our state representative asking to see that in the state statute. What language would you like to see in that state statute?
I would like to see it from what our planning commission noted in their memo and
If
what
you-
our affordable housing subcommittee noted, that it would be reworded
Can you send
as,
that to our state representative?
that it would be reworded as multi-generational affordable housing and not simply housing. Simply housing, as you and I both know, the state of
Mr.
Connecticut isn't gonna give 45 acres to the town of Southbury for simply housing.
Mr. O'Neill, you can send the state representative who represents us in Hartford in the legislation what you believe the legislation should say. You're more than welcome to. Yes. Ann,
So, I'm a little concerned with your dissertation tonight, because if you forgot, we had a motion, we seconded it, and then we had a long discussion about this. And it seems to me that you just weren't prepared that night, and you went home and said, I voted no before the vote even happened.
Well, everybody
So-
was prepared,
So,
but Justin and
first off,
myself,
hold on,
because
hold on. We're not
everybody
gonna have
else
a
was
disruptive
aware that the
conver-
topic was gonna be brought to the
we are not
floor.
going to have a disruptive conversation. I will recognize individuals to discuss what's going on. Okay? One, as far as the accusations that you were made that you didn't get it in time, the agenda was filed December 31st at 2:27 PM. The agenda was filed on time. The information was there.
Are you telling me it
Jeff,
was
we were
filed?
handed that information at the meeting.
It was-
And you
the
know,
agenda
you
was
know we
filed.
don't appreciate that. That's true. You know it.
Jason?
Mr. First Selectman, through you. The manner in which, at our last meeting, and I said at the time, I wish it had been more timely, was done completely legally and voted on by every member of this board. The same manner, the agenda item we're talking about right now was. So if it was right today to discuss it, which it obviously is because we're discussing it, it was proper a week ago, or 2 weeks ago. I apologize. To the argument that whatever language we crafted is going to become law, I think is false. As I said multiple times 2 weeks ago, what we voted on then was a jumping off point for the state representatives. They're the only ones who can write any law. They can add multi-generational, they can add senior, they can add whatever. Had we done nothing last week, or 2 weeks ago, I apologize again, we would get nothing from our state representatives.
I don't
So
believe that.
I still have the floor, Mr. O'Neill. Whether you believe that or not is irrelevant. The time frame to submit bills is in stone. If we had missed that timeline, we would have gotten nothing. So the vote last week, I'll get it right eventually. The vote 2 weeks ago was bipartisan in nature. The vote 2 weeks ago was completely proper. The vote 2 weeks ago was not done with any malice. The vote 2 weeks ago was simply to finally begin the discussion on what happens at the Southbury Training School. If some of the language wasn't what everyone wanted, that's fair. But by doing nothing, we would have missed the opportunity to eventually turn that property into something that can benefit the town of Southbury. I understand that maybe it could have happened a week sooner, possibly. We would have ended up in the same place. All we've simply done is asked our state delegation to take the issue to Hartford and fight for it. The first selectman's 100% correct. If there's any language that Mr. O'Neill, Mr. Betty, any of us, anyone in the crowd, anyone watching at home would like included in that legislation, there are opportunities to do that. It's not our ball anymore to run with. It is your state delegation. So if there is language you'd like to see baked in there, if you have a different vision for what you would like the property to be, everyone still has plenty of time to make those recommendations heard. Representative Bucksbaum, Representative Jensen, State Senator Berthel, all have contacts at Hartford where you can send them emails with exactly what you would like to see in the legislation. All we did 2 weeks ago was start the conversation. It's now up to us individuals to continue the conversation. So rather than backbite and look backwards, if we really want to do something with that property, the best use of our energy is going forward now with our state delegation. Thank you, Mr. Selectman.
May I have the floor?
For further discussion about the language, that's the motion on the floor.
Yep. The issue I have is everyone on this board, other than myself and Justin, were privy that the rewording was going to be added to the agenda. It was not on the initial agenda that was sent out by the town on December 30th, and it was not added with the additions on December 30th. You obviously had numerous days to craft your rewording, and I don't even know when it was added to the agenda. That's the issue I have.
Just to clarify the point, it was added to the agenda that night. You voted yes to do it, Mr. O'Neill.
Excuse me? It was added to the agenda the night
Just
of
like
the
it was
meeting?
tonight.
At that meeting, it was just like the motion we're talking about now.
There was not a two-thirds vote to add that to the agenda.
There sure was.
There was.
No. I don't recall it.
Not minutes.
There was I haven't reviewed the minutes. There was certainly unanimous vote.
So when,
It was
the-
not-
when the minutes were, you approved the minutes, but I can assure you there was a two-thirds vote to add it to the agenda. I
Nope.
believe it, I'll have to look back if it was unanimous. Or been on,
So
We'll
in
have to
order
look.
for it to be on the agenda, we need to have at least 24 hours' notice, or a two-thirds vote would have to be made during the meeting to add it to the agenda, and that never occurred.
We added it to the agenda that night with a unanimous vote.
We did not. And it wasn't in the minutes. And I approved the minutes.
Holly?
If I may, I just pulled up the Connecticut
It
General.
was on, wait a minute. It was on the agenda, it was filed on the agenda prior to the meeting. So you were incorrect, Mr. O'Neill.
No, I am absolutely not, because I have a copy of what I copied down the day that Noreen sent it out. So don't tell me I'm incorrect.
Okay,
Well, it directs us, I mean, maybe mine's different, but when I receive, and forgive me, I just responded, I'm probably out of order, but we get a notice that it's been published to the town website. We don't actually get sent an attachment. But what I was gonna say, just so everybody's on the same page, I just pulled up the Connecticut General Assembly 2025 legislative session deadlines. Every single proposed bill deadline is tomorrow. There would have been no time for us to have this conversation tonight and then expect LCO to review it, for a legislator to draft the legislation and have that submitted for tomorrow. So that, the fact that it was done 2 weeks ago was as timely as possible. Tomorrow is the absolute deadline for every legislator to get their bill in, tomorrow. I have the PDF in front of me. Had we not done it 2 weeks ago, there would have been zero opportunity to expect a brand-new legislator or legislators that are up there to draft a bill, get it to LCO, and have that proposed bill in by tomorrow. Tomorrow's the deadline.
so
I
we
mean, I'm happy to
operated
share
in a
this.
timely manner, given the time frame of legislature. Again, what you're discussing here tonight, right now, is out of order. You are not discussing the motion you made to discuss the legislation itself. You've taken this platform to chastise other members of the board, and also just basically were disrespectful to Ms. Rosa over here, and I'll ask you to conduct yourself in a proper manner. If you have an ethics complaint, I'm sure they met tonight, if you have an ethics complaint about me, bring it to the Ethics Commission. Okay?
If that's what you'd like me to do, I
You
didn't
should
want to
do
have
that.
to go through that.
You
but,
should do that.
You know, I really
So
think
I
that
am
we-
going to, we are going to move on from this because this is unproductive, it's disruptive, and it's causing division amongst this board. Again, we voted on it to have it, is it on the legislation? Did you say on it? The Pierce Hollow? Is a leg-
I don't know what's
Oh,
been
okay,
submitted.
okay.
I pulled up the calendar, and the calendar was released some time ago. It says tomorrow is the deadline, and I'm happy to share that PDF with anybody that's interested.
Okay, so we will move on from this discussion because it's unproductive, and we're not discussing the language of the legislation, that's what the motion was. Procedurally, I will call it that we are going to move on in the agenda. We have no new business. First Selectmen's report. Please see the flow chart for the FEMA public assistance process. We have completed the public assistance request. We are in the process of compiling and submitting the damage inventory, and then FEMA has begun the site inspections for the library. As you see, we are in the very early stages of the public assistance process. Oldfield Road Bridge replacement. Oldfield Bridge project is currently in the design phase. Bids will be solicited for complete replacement of the existing structure. The project has been approved under the Connecticut Department of Transportation's local bridge program, which will reimburse the town for 50% of the project's eligible cost. The public is invited to attend a presentation given by the town of Southbury on Wednesday, January 29th, 2025 at 2 p.m. in room 205A of Town Hall. 501 Main Street South, Southbury, Connecticut. The presentation and meeting minutes will be made available after the meeting. If it is the town's policy to keep the public informed of and involved in projects such as these, it is important that the community share its feedback to assist in the project's development. Anyone interested in obtaining further information or providing input may do so by attending the public information meeting or by contacting Gary Grew, a professional engineer of Cardinal Engineering Associates Incorporated, at gary@cardinal-engineering.com. Library. Since our last Board of Selectmen meeting, Southbury Library Director Heather Arson has been working with the manager of the hotel, Heritage Hotel, to discuss the temporary relocation of the library. The hotel has provided Heather with the keys yesterday. Rooms were measured and layout of the space was created. There will be an office area, tech services, circulation, and open areas for browsing. Library staff have started to move blocks and supplies from our temporary space in the town hall to Heritage Hotel. Items such as tables, book carts, and display units in the Southbury Library have been marked for Public Works to move, and Southbury IT Director David Richards met with the manager today to plan the Wi-Fi phones, and other technology installations for the move. Library staff are in the process of determining the opening date and the hours offered to the public. We will keep everyone updated on the details of the new temporary location. Everyone is excited and looking forward to providing the community with a physical location to visit until the Southbury Library is repaired and reopened. And we have a picture of below. A joint press conference was held on January 13th at Southbury Town Hall, with Senator Richard Blumenthal, District Director of U.S. Small Business Administration, Catherine Marks, and me, to discuss the passage of the American Relief Act 2025, which has now been funded. The U.S.'s SBA's disaster loan program, with this funding, the SBA can resume processing urgently needed financial relief for those impacted by natural disasters, including Southbury's August flood, which is a presidentially declared disaster. Earlier this week, I met with our Fraternal Order of Police representative from Connecticut Locals. The goal of the meeting was to get acquainted as well as establish a starting point to continue the good working relationship between our town and the local police union officials. Senior Center. Yesterday, Andrea Cochran, Director of the Southbury Senior Center, had the pleasure of welcoming Newtown's first selectman, Jeff Capisci, and Director of Human Services, Natalie Griffith, to the Senior Center. The visit included a tour of our facility and operation. Yesterday, the Southbury Finance Director, Dan Colton, and I had another productive meeting with the United States Tennis Association regarding our community park tennis courts that were destroyed in the flood. Discussion with USTA will be ongoing. I would like to thank USTA for their support with this project. And of course, the pools. The update on the pool. The cold weather has been, we've been experiencing, has slowed down the progress on the pool. This slowdown was expected to happen over the winter months. Construction will continue when weather conditions are suitable for building. The other thing, I'd like to inform the Board of Selectmen, if they have not heard from the Board of Finance. Right now, our current budget is running $1 million deficit. This is directly related to the amount of money we spent on the storm damage. Because it's technically spending out of our budget right now, it is hitting $1 million in our budget. What will correct that, hopefully, is the bonding that we will bond. Once we bond, that $1 million will be shifted to there. Justin, if you have any questions about that, Tim, talk to Justin, who's on the Board of Finance. He understands that. Or you can talk to Dan Colton about that. But it's directly, we spend a lot of money and was not in the budget. So We're putting together numbers, so when we go to a complete, what we anticipate to be a complete bond package. In theory, if we were reimbursed in time before the July 1st, and we were reimbursed at 75% on roughly $1 million, you would still run a $250,000 deficit with the anticipation that everything was approved. If it's not approved, you would still be running the deficit above the $250,000 because it wasn't in the budget. So we do not anticipate, I don't anticipate FEMA reimbursing us even for the money we've already spent yet. It takes quite a while before they send the money. So we'll be working towards what that number is for bonding to get all the work that we need to get done going forward. So if you have any questions about that, it's not a secret. It was at the Board of Finance, announced at the Board of Finance meeting. We closed the books. It gets posted on the website. It's absolutely transparent, but there is $1 million deficit we're running at this time. Any questions of me?
I do. I've emailed you a number of times on the New Wheeler Road project, the $800,000 grant that was received by the state of Connecticut. Do you have any update on that for the board?
I do not right now.
One of my questions was when it was approved by the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance. I haven't been able to locate that in any board meetings. If you can give me that date, I'd appreciate it.
Reports from liaisons. Selectman Armino.
That's my first report.
How exciting.
Big day. So I met with the library board on Wednesday, January 8th. And Jeff, you took my thunder because you reported everything I was going to report.
Sorry.
That's okay. They did talk about the strategic plan draft, and the book draft that has just started, and all the different things that you had spoke about with them getting their satellite.
Oh, you gotta push the button.
I have a big mouth, though, so
There
I'm
you
sure
go.
you heard me.
But you gotta push the button.
Okay. So we know all the little things that are going on. The head librarian's gonna keep everyone abreast of what's going on. There was a board member with her social media people that raised the concern of the progress of the damage that happened and the repairs that are going on at the library. So my plan was to educate these people and the library board. So I gathered a bunch of information from the Selectmen minutes, the library minutes, news media. I spoke to Steve Schnell, and he did a beautiful timeline with Gosha of the entire flooding, and he's gonna help me work on something that I can pass along to the library board. Shirley Michaels was excited about that, as was the librarian. And then Steve said, as we go along and things are being repaired, we can add to that. So that's my report for the library. Next Tuesday is the EMS committee meeting. I did meet with Geraldine last Friday to get some past documents and get up to speed for this upcoming meeting. And local emergency planning committee, that doesn't meet in January, we will meet in February.
Is that it? Okay. Selectman Betty.
IPOC and the Pool Oversight Committee have not met since our last meeting. Economic Development Commission did meet last night. I was not able to attend as I had to enter the twilight zone and go to our oldest son's high school orientation. I still can't believe it. It's crazy enough that he's taller than me at age 13, but he's going to high school. I did talk with Kevin. It was an eventful meeting. The Arts and Culture Subcommittee has decided to split off on its own and become a 501(c) organization with the blessing of the town, and that will allow them to more easily fundraise and do some other things that will keep it going and hopefully keep it growing, because they've got a lot of momentum going. Kevin also reports that 800 Main Street South here, the large old furniture building across from Southbury Green, is closed for $3.3 million. So we got a new developer coming into town. Be interesting to see what they have in store, and a little conveyance tax boost never hurts either. Strategic Plan Commission has not met. They will not be meeting anymore. I think you've all seen the resignations. You know, they have not been able to get our attention over the last year, and they call it wind to the fact that there is a movement in the Charter Review Committee to eliminate them. So they've basically all resigned, I believe. There might be one or two left. So that's probably the end of that for now. That's it.
Okay. If that's the direction that happens, I think we can, task force can be formed through this group, through the Board of Selectmen for any particular thing we're looking to do or get information on, and we can do that just as easy with people with particular skill sets to be on it, to do that, so we can still work on things moving forward. Selectman O'Neill.
Yes, my 3 commissions or Community Relations Task Force has not met. The Conservation Commission meets next week, and Park and Rec did meet, but their minutes weren't out. I was unable to attend last week.
Selectman Sullivan.
Region 15 did meet on January 13th. Several of us saw a walkthrough, I don't know, maybe a year ago, of a much-needed renovation at the high school for their culinary classes. That was completed, and so one of the agenda items that they addressed in the Board of Ed meeting was an introduction of 3 new cooking classes. So they're introducing 3 new classes. It is, for anybody who doesn't know, the culinary arts are the first classes to fill up, they're the hardest to get into, so it's nice to see that they were able to, with the new facilities, to add 3 more cooking classes. So it'll be culinary arts, baking and pastry, and food service and restaurant management. As there's a lot of kids that want to go that direction. Amongst a couple others, there's a few that I don't entirely understand that are around, like digital media and stuff that like I'm way too old for. And another class that's a wilderness physical education, which I thought was really cool.
Wilderness physical?
Wilderness physical education. So I think that kind of, I don't know, for me, conjures images of, you know, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts at high school age. And it's cool stuff, just very cool stuff. I like that they're thinking outside the box and giving our kids some kind of, something a little bit different than, you know, the 101s. And then they went into executive session to talk about the superintendent's goals. That's all executive session stuff, but it sounds like they had a productive meeting.
Yeah, I just wanted, I think it's wonderful the work that, like the culinary arts and what they're doing with food management. You know, a lot of the students will have skill sets getting out. I like the fact that the region is thinking outside the box. Besides, I understand the importance of education in college, but there's many different people, students that do many different things. And you never know when you can spark the flame of education in a student because they're able to pursue something they had never really thought was something they would be interested in.
Yep.
So we want to keep our schools good for everybody, and just simply measuring how many people went to college is not always the measure of how good your school is developing your students. So I'm really happy to see what's going on. Selectman Stone, Dan Stone, yes, sir.
So 2 of my commissions have met since our last meeting. Charter Revision is continuing its work, which is the refrain you're probably going to hear from me for the rest of the year. We are slowly adding things to the pile for deeper discussion, and I think the group's working pretty well. Senior Commission met yesterday in addition to the items in the report. It was a pretty quick meeting, most of it surrounded by the recap of how the year ended and the progress they've seen in the numbers of members of the center, which they're very excited about. They're also excited about the new driver who began and helping to take some of the burden off the previous group, as well as the director trying to get her Class F license so she could also pitch in when needed.
And she did get her license.
Since yesterday?
No, I think she told me she got it.
Oh, I thought she was pursuing it. She either is pursuing it or she got it. Either way,
yeah.
it's going to help the burden over there. And there was a leadership change on the commission due to some personal reasons. So the new chairman of the commission is Judy Katzmark. The new vice chairman is Zoe Milbank, and they're both excited about their new roles. And it's a pretty energetic group. I like them.
I like that you like them.
I don't know if they care if I like them, but I like them.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And we are adjourned. Thank you.